a Green Beret for a little while, who had done deployments to Iraq and Afghanistan, and we discussed collateral damage and what it had done to him. But I think more of his PTSD was that ever vigilant mode that you stay in because of what you're facing, and especially with guerrilla warfare the way that it is now and has been since Vietnam. And I think that that was his biggest struggle, because when he came home, I had to touch his toe to wake him up and stand away from the bed because he would come up ready to fight. Do you feel like that's how you came back?
When I first came back, it's been 20 years now, 19 years, since my last deployment and returned back. So when I first came back, there was about a probably 7 to 10 year period where, my goodness, I'd be sitting here in your living room and I'd be looking. Dog walk by and I'd be looking. Any shadow across the window, scanning continuously. I couldn't be somewhere in public and eat without somebody, the waiter or waitress walking behind me and I turn my head. Still now, I'll be in a conversation with someone, looking at you in a conversation, and somebody will, while we're sitting here conversating in a very peaceful place, could be a park, could be a restaurant, could be somewhere very comfortable. Anybody that walks in our perimeter, anybody that's anywhere to be found, I'm going to turn, come back to you. Turn, assess, evaluate, come back to you. And not miss a beat.
And that's been 20 years.
Yeah, still right now, absolutely. Absolutely. I'll turn, assess, come back to you, and not miss a beat in our conversation. Not even realize I'm doing it until I've done it 4, 5, 6 times. Then I'll be like, I'll apologize and say, listen, I am paying attention. I promise you I'm hearing everything you're saying. When you see me do that, that's just a habit of mine to make sure there's no threat, even though it's quite obvious there's no threat. It could be a children's playground. It doesn't matter. I was still a little kid running by the ball, and I'll turn and assess. You know, it doesn't stop. You learn to live with it. You don't. My PTSD is treatable. It's not curable. I'm permanent and total. My disability is permanent and total. It's chronic. It will get worse. A lot of my PTSD stems from post-military, and hopefully for the people that are in here that are dealing with addiction, and the traumas that surround addiction, and jails and prisons, and the things that come with out there being in the streets, I've lived all that. I've had this celebrated career, and post all the military, that's when it got real. It got real fast.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. You describe coming home in your book as being the most dangerous of your missions. Why is that?
Inability to function outside the mission.
But please continue to support our extremely honorable service people and first responders, because TheraSonix Comp with a Cause Season 6 is about veterans and first responders with PTSD and suicide prevention. So we're going to continue on with our interview now with Bruce Fees. He is a first sergeant, retired, disabled. He is 100% disabled with complex PTSD. And so we are going to continue the interview now. You can put your mic back on, Bruce. She's now recording. Thank you. I want to say thank you for your service. I know that people say that with a flippancy because they feel like that's something right to say, but I do appreciate everything you have done. But I appreciate more what you've done since you've come back. So we're going to get back to that question that I asked you. I asked you to describe that you describe in your book coming home as being the most dangerous of your missions. Why is that?
And I'll read from part of the book because it's easier for me to keep my brain in one place. But
okay.
It goes on to say, it says, nobody tells you how to transition from the battlefield to the backyard, from the convoy to the commute, from clearing houses to cleaning your internet history because you're ashamed of what you just searched for at 3 a.m. trying to quiet your brain. I came home expecting relief. Instead, I found confusion. You walk into a grocery store and can't stop scanning. You sit with your back to the wall at restaurants. You memorize exits. You track every sudden movement like you're still in Fallujah. And you do all this in warp speed without anybody even knowing you're doing it. People look at you crazy when you drop to a knee or get on your belly when a car backfires or a firework goes off. They joke when you flinch at a car backfiring. They say, man, you need to relax. It's not a relaxation thing. For a combat vet, it's like drowning for a swimmer, unnatural and terrifying. Nobody trained me how to hold a baby without shaking. Nobody trained me how to cry again. Nobody trained me how to be human after becoming a weapon. I didn't know how to talk to civilians. I didn't know how to trust therapists. I didn't know how to ask for help because asking for help was weakness, and weakness got men killed. And it came with a stigma. Let's not forget that in the military and in law enforcement and in fire and first responders, if you go out looking for help because you're having trouble dealing with your job, the stress and the trauma that you're seeing, you're going to be stigmatized. You're going to get help. They've opened up now where they'll get you help, but you're not going to get promoted. You're not going to be put back in front of your shift or your department or whatever the case may be until they think you've stabilized. Because now they're fearful that you're not going to be able to handle it, even though it has nothing to do with being able to handle it. It has to do with you just asking for some help dealing with some of the things you're dealing with. But functionality-wise, you may still be the best or even better than you've ever been. My ability to handle a crisis is far better than my ability to handle peace. Let there be a 4-car pileup or a 6-car pileup in an intersection and let me be the first person there, and I got that under control.
I would want you to be the first one there because I know that about you, and I can imagine that.
Yeah, but put me in a room with people as peace and quiet. Put me in a library. Put me in a library with some people that should be in a library, and watch me just be a mess. Watch me. I'm just a mess. I don't know how to deal with that. What's going on? It's amazing. I have the medals.
It's amazing what PTSD will do and a complex PTSD. So explain to everyone here, because you touched on that previously, what the difference is between complex PTSD and just PTSD.
The thing that brings it on is repeated trauma, starting from youth through adulthood. Lord knows I have that times 10. The biggest simple difference between the two is the lack of any specific memory that causes you problems, but the fact that you are on full speed. My brain is a supercomputer on steroids. It never stops. I will hold 4 conversations simultaneously. I won't miss a thing anybody says. When I went and saw the neurologist for my brain scan because I thought I had post-concussion syndrome, I was trying to rationalize what was wrong with me. I couldn't accept PTSD as being the sole thing that was wrong. I had to believe that.
So Rich just said in the audience, he said complex can lead to DID. What is that?
Disassociation. I think that's what he's talking about, where you isolate and disassociate. There's a ton of disassociation and isolation that comes with it. I isolate like crazy. I have been alone for the better part of 5 years now. Since I lost my fiance and my father.
And that is a common theme with several of the people that are veterans in our program that I have spoken to. They isolate quite a bit. And I worry for everyone that we're in treatment with about that. I worry about them relapsing, and I know I shouldn't, but I do worry about it just because I don't want to see them suffer more, but they make that decision.
They do. You have to want to be sober, first of all. What I've learned, I've been dealing with helping people in sobriety now for over 3 years, specifically working with addiction and recovery. And even before that, I was facilitating Celebrate Recovery, leading NA groups for years and years and years. If the person don't want to be sober, then they're not going to be sober. No program, no testing, there's nothing that's going to keep them that way. They will always go back. So at their heart.
And I guess the eternal optimist in me always wants everybody to want it as much as I do, but I don't think that that's the case. And especially when we're in a court-ordered program like you and I are. But let me go back to this and say that you wrote I didn't get high to get high. I got high to get quiet. Can you explain that statement? And because most veterans I talk to speak of addiction because of being injured during active duty, and then they get prescribed pain medicine most of the time, which is how they start. Why is yours different?
Well, I've been blessed never to have been seriously injured until here recently when I got run over by an F-350 pickup. But
yeah, we're going to talk about that.
It was a matter of trying to calm down, trying to calm my brain. For my drug of choice, which will shock people that aren't familiar with these things, methamphetamine was my drug of choice. I loved it. It brought me peace, it brought me focus, it brought me quiet. The exact opposite it has for most people that use it. If you do some research on it, there is a drug called Doslin. It is a legally prescribed methamphetamine. It is methamphetamine, not Adderall, Doslin. It is methamphetamine. It's been approved by the FDA since the late 40s. It can be used in extreme cases of ADHD and extreme cases of weight loss. People don't want to say that because they're like, what do you mean methamphetamine helps people? It does help some. It helped me dramatically. You wouldn't believe me on methamphetamine. I ran a company for 2 years. Not one soul knew I ever used, and I used every single day for 2 years. And it brought me peace. I was in a better place mentally, more stable. It brought me focus. But obviously it brought me a lot of other things eventually. Eventually it brought the things that come with drug use with it that crushed my life. And I found the solution elsewhere with proper medication. In my case, Motrin and some other medications that bring me that same peace. But for the longest time, I was not disabled through the military. I was not receiving my benefits. I was not getting treated. I was not seeing my psychiatrist like I have for the last 6 years. And I was self-medicating. And I didn't know that. They tell me that. To this day, I wonder if that's really true. Or it was I just liked it so much. Regardless, I used it to get peace, to calm me, to allow me to focus. I stopped drinking when I started using methamphetamine. My heavy drinking went away completely, to where I didn't drink. You're lucky if I drank a six-pack in a month. Everything just slowed down and functioned for me for a period before it all came crashing down in a whole different way.
I guess I can see that because of the hypervigilance thing, right? So your hypervigilance is almost like ADHD or something similar, where I've seen people that have that do very well on methamphetamine as well, because it's like that Adderall kind of thing where they
exactly.
Yeah, so that makes sense to me that you say that.
The difference between Adderall and methamphetamine is so slight you wouldn't believe it. For people that know chemistry, when you look at that little breakdown chart of all those pentagons and everything that sit in a chart to make up the ultimate chemical at the end, it's slightly different. It's modified slightly. It's basically methamphetamine modified to what they call Adderall. The Doslin is just straight methamphetamine. It is straight methamphetamine.
The dangerous part, though, now you and I know, is that street drugs are not what they used to be, and the introduction of fentanyl into the whole sphere of drugs on the street